What's up, Nitro Gang? Welcome to another Savage XL K5.9 video. I gotta say, I think we succeeded last time. This thing did actually hit the 3 speeds. Now, it didn't hit him at exactly the right time I wanted it to, but it did hit the 3 speed. Take a look at this video.
Yep, I heard the 3. I heard the 3 times shifted. Oh man, I'm happy. Oh man, that 3 speed sounds gorgeous. I don't know if something could sound gorgeous, but that's what it sounds like. 1, 3. 3 speed is in action, baby.
Now, of course, that run was successful. It did hit the 3 speed. I adjusted and tuned the motor. It seems to have run pretty okay there towards the end. It might have been a little bit rich there at the top end. But my battery pack, the receiver died. I have a brand new one, 1700 milliamp hour capacity from Amazon. It's actually much higher than the standard 1200 pack. We're gonna be replacing this in this video. I'm also gonna be fine tuning the transmission. One of the viewers, I appreciate your comments so much, man. I'm gonna put a picture of it here as I talk about it. Gave me really good suggestions on how to adjust the transmission. And to be honest with you, that was exactly what I was thinking about. So the 2-speed, in my opinion, kicked in a little bit late. So I'm gonna try to adjust the 2-speed to kick in a little bit earlier, and the 3rd gear kicked in a little bit too early. So the 3rd gear, we're gonna try to move it back a little bit to engage at the higher RPM. Another issue I encountered during the last one, there was like a tiny little jump. I took a tiny jump with this thing, and one of the tie rods in the back, one of the ones I never replaced, it's probably an original part, popped out of the actual ball cup that it's on. No big deal, I have spares. But take a look at this. There's just like a lot of play going on right there. It's not the end of the world. It's not fully disconnected. I think what I'm going to do, instead of replacing it just for these speed runs, I'm just going to zip tie it together. It should be okay. So no big deal. You know, this is like a 10-year-old plus RC truck at this point. You know, plastics just give way. A lot of people say, hey, is the Savage tough? It's tough, guys. But to be honest with you, I personally think the X 4.6 model is probably a better basher overall than this one. Don't get me wrong, the chassis is super robust. These are very good twin vertical plate 3mm chassis designs. But the suspension system, to me, it honestly doesn't look that beefy compared to the 4.6. Why do I say that? This truck has, you know, a wider stance than the 4.6. What happens is there's just a lot of extra stressors on the parts when you take landings, when you jump, when you do any of that basic RC stuff. You know, you're really stressing out these parts. When I look at like any of the suspension links, the tie rods, they do not look any beefier than the much lighter and narrower and slimmer X 4.6 model. Now, of course, this has its own advantages. Yes, it's got a 3-speed. Yes, it's much bigger. These tires are pretty freaking cool. And it's got some other modifications other than the 4.6 model. Of course, you know, the engine is a beast in this thing. But it's one of those give and take type of things. To give myself an edge on the small fine-tuning adjustments I gotta do on this before we take it to a speed run, I put on a nice, clean, fresh polo shirt. Why? Because sometimes you need that dress for success advantage. You know what I'm saying? Generally, whenever I unbox any fit scale RCs, I wear a white button-down shirt. Well, if this is an old RC, I think a black polo should suffice. Let's get to it. By the way, in my last video, I showed off my 18th scale HPI Micro RS4 with the Lamborghini Gallardo body. Well, guys, I have another one. This is basically a brand new in box, ready to run. This is a very, very old one. I opened it, but you know what? I never put it together. This is an original Micro RS4. Some people said in the comments of the last video that this is like a toy grade RC. This is not a toy grade RC. They basically used standard size 10 scale electronics at the time. That means this is not a toy grade RC. It had its own receiver, it had its own ESC, it had its own regular servo. The motors were small, of course, to fit the chassis, but this is not a 10 scale RC. You know what? Do you guys want to see this a little bit? I only opened this up like one time. I was saving this for another video, but you know what? I'm gonna do it. Why not, right? Look at this original packaging. The included factory radio. We're not gonna open that right now because I just don't feel like it. Take a look at this car itself. Oh, let me not destroy this original HPI packing material. This is actually one of my favorite and most rare bodies for this model itself. Check this out. This is pretty much electric RC history right here, guys. That's right, a Honda Civic. Some people say this is probably the best looking Honda Civic body shell they ever made. And I don't only mean for the Micro RS4 series, I mean for the Honda Civic in general. This is a really beautiful car, guys. So we're not gonna, remove this right now just because I don't feel like it. But this one still has its factory 180 motor. This is not the HPI modified motor I showed you in the last video. This is like the stocker that it came with. But this is a historic RC car, guys. You want to see this? Put in the comments. Of course, we're going to build the other one with a fast brushless system. Here it is, the stock pack. Very simple. Just take it out, disconnect it, right? It's a standard connection. The original one, 1200 milliamp hours. So the new one, 1700. So it's basically around 50% more capacity. Of course, they are the same size. What do you expect? This is like a 10-plus-year-old pack. So Tenergy pretty good on Amazon. Very cheap for the amount of money I paid. Some people upgrade to a different type of batteries, but I just like to stick to the same size in terms of original, so we don't have to mess around with the receiver box itself. New pack is installed. Let's just test it out. Yeah, everything is fine. Works. Our optional LED indicator says our pack is fully charged, obviously because I just fully charged it. This tie rod keeps popping out of its ball cup, so, I don't know if I have a replacement now. It seems to still be geometrically okay, so I'm just gonna secure it with some zip ties. It really doesn't matter. This thing only has like an up and down type of movement here, so it should still work adequately. Here it is. Not an ideal fix, but there's really nothing else I could do. I had to use this as a link to secure, the zip tie to. There's really nothing else I could do. It seems to be pretty secure. I just need this not to pop out for, a couple speed runs. I eventually will buy these. Not the end of the world. This is one of those Nitro Guru fixes. It'll work. It should be fine. It's transmission time. I'm gonna have to adjust the 2-speed and the 3-speed, but now we know at least that it shifts. It should be no big deal. We just got to disassemble the clutch system again. It's actually quite easy. We're starting with a 3rd gear clutch all the way here. So this one I needed to engage a little bit later. So what that means is the set screw inside has to be turned clockwise. It's going to apply tension on the spring. We're going to turn this way direction, guys, to your right. I'm going to do about 1/8 of a turn. We're going to mark it by this little dynamite inscription here. So let's see, 1/8 of a turn about. Clockwise. Okay, there it goes. So yeah, about 45 degrees I did on that clutch. Now let's get to the second clutch. The 2nd gear set screw is recessed right over here, and we have to adjust this another 1/8 of a turn left, so counterclockwise. The reason is we want this to engage a little bit earlier, and this is going to apply less tension on a spring that's inside this gear mechanism. Let's do this about 1/8 of a turn counterclockwise. Here we go. Okay, that should be good. If you're wondering what the second set screw here is, well, this is just a cross pin that goes through this entire shaft, and this is literally what keeps the gear hub mechanism on the shaft itself. Our only adjustment screw is the one that we literally just adjusted, the one that's recessed over here. All right, Nitro gang, we got my Savage out here. I was just getting ready to start this up, test out the 3-speed, and then guess what? An 8S Kraton shows up. So I figured this would be a good opportunity to kind of give this thing a little bit of a view. I used to be an Arrma hater, but then one of my viewers pointed out, hey bro, you should probably get an Arrma. I did get an Arrma, and I am no longer a hater. So, I put my money where my mouth was, and for some reason, I'm now an Arrma supporter, although I do wish they made a Nitro, but that's not the end of the world. Check out how big the Savage is compared to the 8S Kraton. It's actually not that big, right? Some of the criticism on these 8S Arrmas is the fact that they are not true 1/5 scales. Well, I mean, it's hard to say. Judge for yourself. This is the biggest Savage that there is, other than the Savage 5T, which is like a 5th scale. The Arrma Kraton is actually kind of big, even the wheels, you could tell they're substantially taller and wider than the biggest of the Savage bunch right here. Suspension-wise, guys,
This is like the smoothest, most well-dampened suspension I probably have ever felt. I am amazed. They got this huge tower-to-tower brace is what they call. Yes, I did my Arrma research, so I know their terminology now. This particular one is running dual 3S packs. I was lucky enough to meet a viewer that actually knew who I was, and he told me, hey bro, take out my new Arrma 8S for a spin. I told him, why not? I'm only here to do some savage speed testing, but now I'm gonna be driving myself some nice fit scale Arrmas over here. Drives great. Right now we're only running 6S in this thing. It's really made to handle a lot more power than that, and it's also meant to handle some skateboard action, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm not a skate fan anymore. Ever since Tony Hawk stopped producing video games for the PlayStation 2 and 3, it's over. It's Arrma time now. You know what's interesting? This Arrma is making me hungry. By the way, this is some one-handed driving right here. One-handed driving, look at that. The Spectrum remote is made for some one-handed driving. You know, we're not matching it, we're not killing it right now because, yeah, this thing isn't mine. But it's got a lot of that low-end power. We got ourselves a funny license plate right here. You guys see this Honda Civic? It says kielbasa. Well, that's the Russian word on how to say sausage. So I guess this is the Honda Civic, New York, whatever that is, sausage. I'm not